In these two problems, we're going to factor, and we're going to be factoring by grouping. Factor by grouping typically occurs when you have four separated terms by addition and subtraction. So, to start off this first problem, whenever you perform factor by grouping, your first step is to group the terms into two pairs of terms that are being added together. Meaning we're going to group these first two and then these second two. So first we'll group together 2x squared minus 2x. And then we're going to group together negative 3x plus 3. And when we do this, always remember that you must have addition between these pairs of parentheses. So that negative has to go inside of the parentheses. Now from here, we're going to factor out the greatest common factor in each of these pairs. So for instance, in this first pair, we have 2x squared minus 2x. So the greatest common factor between them would be 2x. You can divide each of these terms evenly by 2x. And when you do that, you get 2x times 2x squared divided by 2x is just x. And negative 2x divided by 2x is negative 1. Now we're going to repeat the same thing over here. We have our plus, and now we need to factor out the greatest common factor between negative 3x and plus 3. Well, immediately you can see that there's a 3 that's common. But the trick here is when we're doing this, we need the end result to have two things in the parentheses that are exactly the same. In this case, if we just factor out a 3, the first term here will be negative and the second will be positive. But in this scenario, the first term is positive and the second is negative. So we need to swap these signs in the second one. And the way that we do that is by factoring out a negative. You can always factor out a negative. It just means that you're dividing by a negative. So we're going to get plus negative 3 times negative 3x divided by negative 3 is just x, and positive 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. And now that we're here, we now have the exact same thing in parentheses, so we're going to bring one of them down, and then we're going to multiply by the two terms on the outside being added together. That's why that addition was so important there. So we have 2x plus negative 3, which is just 2x minus 3. And this is completely factored. Now let's go ahead and try the second problem. We're going to factor x squared minus ax minus bx plus ab. So, I suggest you pause the video at this point and try this one on your own. Okay, so now from here, first step, we're going to group our terms into pairs. First, we'll group the x squared minus ax, and then we'll group the negative bx plus ab. And remember, you always have to put addition between the two pairs. Now we want to check what's common between them. So notice that each term has an x that can factor out, so we'll factor that x out, giving us x squared divided by x is just x, and negative ax divided by x is just negative a. Plus, and now we want to factor out what's common between the second two. Each of them has a b, so we're going to factor that b out, But again, notice that the signs are reversed between our first two pairs. This is a positive, then a negative. This is a negative, then a positive. So again, we have to factor out a negative, or a negative b in this case. So we get plus negative b times negative bx divided by negative b is just positive x. And then ab divided by negative b is just negative a. Notice we now have matching terms in the parentheses. Once we have that, we can stop factoring and bring one of the terms down, which gives us the quantity of x minus a times the quantity of the terms on the outside being added together. X plus negative b is x minus b. And that is completely factored.